I'm finally getting around to filming a tutorial for this like Salem Raglan sweater. Life is just kind of hitting me full force. I kind of got bitch slapped this week because my youngest, my little 8-month-old, is teething. And I don't know what it is about being a mom, but every once in a while I'll be like, man, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. I don't remember any of our other kids doing this. And then I'll like go back and read my journal and I'm like, oh, it was hell then too. Cool. Let's just jump right into it. If you are new here, welcome to my channel, House Heisterman. I knit a sweater like 10 months ago and it did pretty well. Not gonna lie, it did pretty well on social media. And I had probably a little over 1,000 messages asking me for a pattern, a tutorial, for me to make them one. And the best I can do is a half masticated tutorial. For this tutorial specifically, I will be knitting in the round. The original sweater that I did was knit flat and pieced together. And when I did a poll on my Instagram, same username, go follow me, everyone voted on a in the round Raglan tutorial first and then a knit flat version whenever I get around to it. But I just wanna first talk about gauge swatching. I know that there is a big community of knitters who are anti-swatch. Valid. Sometimes it does feel like an absolute waste of time. Where I'm not a professional pattern maker and I did not have my design tested for any of the other sizes. I just wrote it, did the math myself based off of what worked for my gauge. I do think it's important that you, at a minimum, gauge swatch, find out if you are too big or too small compared to my gauge. Adjust your needle size accordingly. Also, I would ensure that you have the correct size or correct weight yarn. I am using Lang Yarns in Cloud and Lang Yarns Zen held together, which creates a bulky, slightly heavier than bulky weight. My gauge for this is 14 stitches by 20 rows. If you are unfamiliar with a gauge and you're a complete beginner, that's totally fine. A gauge swatch is basically going to tell you a little bit about your tension, but then it's also going to tell you whether or not you are going to end up with a product that is too small or too big in comparison to the pattern. But definitely block your gauge swatch. That's just as important as actually knitting the gauge swatch. I am going to be knitting a size 6T today. Obviously, what I initially made was a newborn size, but I'm going to be making my daughter's birthday sweater and she's going to be 5 and I want it to fit her for the next year. So 6T it is. Like I said, I am not a professional pattern maker, so any and all criticism, please be nice, okay? I'm human, and the reason why I'm releasing this for free and not putting it behind any sort of paywall is because when I first started knitting and crocheting, my favorite resource was YouTube. I think that there needs to be even more tutorials. At the end of the day, because I'm not a professional pattern designer and I didn't have anyone test knit this, I would also just be kind of ripping you off. So a free pattern and a free tutorial it is. If you have kind feedback or kind criticism, DM it to me on Instagram. I might read it if I have the balls. But we are just going to get right into it. My yarn is up behind me, so I need to grab it. My goal when I made this pattern was to omit anything too complicated, because I do think that when it becomes too complicated, people no longer have fun making the pattern and they just become very stressed out about learning all these new skills. So I have listed all of the terms that you'll need to know. I hope that it's clear enough as we go throughout. But I will also link my favorite tutorials for any skills that maybe I didn't do a great enough job explaining to you. Let's just get right into it. I have my laptop here, so if you see me looking anywhere but at you, it's for that reason alone. The needle size that I use is a US 10.5, 6.5 millimeter. You use whatever gets you to gauge. Okay, really quickly, I just wanted to mention that I created a pattern that caters to sizes preemie newborn, 3 to 6 months, 9 to 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, 4 years, and 6 years, okay? So the first thing that we are going to do is get our needles, stitch markers. You are going to need 8 stitch markers, whichever ones you prefer to work with. If you are brand new to knitting, I would recommend closed ring stitch markers, just because the safety pin closure ones and the plastic closure ones, they tend to pop off. And if you've never really knit a raglan before, and you lose like a raglan marker or your beginning of round marker, it might be really frustrating to try and figure out where you are. So I would recommend 8 closed circle stitch markers and 1 beginning of round marker that looks different to all your other markers, because this is going to indicate when you have completed a round in the round. So we have that, we have our yarn, and we have a good attitude. Oh my gosh, my husband just gave me a heart attack. I am going to cast on with a long tail cast on method. It is my favorite. It is still elastic enough for me versus regular cast ons. Whatever is your preference, do that. Did you have fun on the tractor? Oh no. Why are you walking towards me like that?
I hurt.
What did he hurt?
I hurt tractor.
Oh, the tractor hurt you. Oh, let me see. Let me see again. Oh, you want me to kiss it?
Yeah.
Okay, come sit down.
Okay.
Can you be really quiet?
Yeah.
Shh. Okay. Oh, good job. Yeah, cross those legs. Get comfy. Okay. So like I said, get your yarn wrapped around 10 times loosely. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this tells me that this is about how much yarn I'll need to cast on 10 total stitches. So I know for size 6T, I need to cast on 66 stitches. So now what I do, are you done? You're done already?
Yeah.
I love you. You're super cute.
Where am I?
No, this one's mine.
Okay.
Okay? Is that okay? Yeah? So I take my yarn and I basically just fold it over on itself. I have 66 stitches, so 7 times. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Okay, and this will give me enough yarn to cast on 66 stitches and still have a tail to weave in. What?
The taste.
Did you have fun?
Yeah.
You just love hanging out with Dad?
Yeah, he could try charger.
He did.
Mom.
Wait, can you just help me cast on
Mommy,
for, yeah?
Mom.
Yes.
The sink.
There was a snake?
Yeah, it's a sink.
Oh my
This
goodness.
cake sink.
Is that a rattlesnake? It's a blow snake. Can you go brush your teeth with Daddy?
Carry it there.
Ooh, you wanna go on Daddy's back? So I have my tail here on my right. It's probably looking like it's on my left here, but on my right, and then my working yarn coming from the left. Okay, I will turn this around so you can see better. Okay, so like I said, my working yarn is on the left and my tail yarn is on the right. I'm gonna take the tip of my needle and I'm gonna put it through my little slip knot here and just gently tighten it. And then I am going to take my hand and I'm gonna make like finger gun, okay? And I am going to drape my yarn over the top. All right, then I'm gonna grab the 2 strands, and for clarification, this is my tail, this is the working yarn. The working yarn comes directly from the ball, the tail yarn is what we are trying to use up, okay? So now I'm going to take my needle, and if you kind of look here, it looks like bunny ears, okay? So I take my needle and I go under the left leg of the left bunny ear and up, and then around the left leg of the right bunny ear. So it looks like I have two wraps there. Okay, this is the first technical stitch, being the slip stitch, or the slip knot. But then I have these 2 strands. This top strand is now going to be pulled back through the rabbit ear, and then I'm going to let go of the rabbit ear, and I have a new stitch. Just to do that again, I'm going to go under the left leg of the left ear, around the left leg of the right ear, and back through. I'm going to let go, and now I have 3. So I'm going to do this until I have 66 stitches on my needles. So I just counted to make sure that I have all of the stitches on my needle. I do. And then I have a decently long tail that I can weave back in when I'm done. Now we have our stitch markers. I am going to only pull out for right now my beginning of round marker that is connected to a million other pieces of junk. Wow, the background's really messy. I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to place it on my right needle. So right now, as it stands, we have an unconnected set of stitches, okay? They are not in the round. So what I do is I have my needles here. I make sure that all of my stitches, I call this the spine. I make sure the spine of my stitches are all going the same way, that none of them are twisted like this. This would make it so that when I go to knit into it, I maybe will knit it twisted and it'll end up not being a perfect loop. I do knit continental, so hopefully it doesn't look confusing. I scoot my stitches to the tops of my needles and I take my right needle and my working yarn here and I enter this first stitch here. So if you look at it, it's kind of a V. I come here and I enter the front leg, and now I'm in between this left leg and this right leg of the V. Okay? So now I take my working yarn, I yarn over, or I wrap it around, and you can kind of see here that that's the yarn over. I gently slide my needle down and I knit that stitch from the left needle to my right. So some people have tricks to prevent any sort of laddering. I have personally found that as long as you just tighten up this tail piece and try and knit your join tighter, you really won't run into any issues. But you're going to knit one complete round back to this beginning of round marker. So again, that knit stitch looks like coming underneath. You're in the center of that stitch, yarn over, pull the stitch through and onto your right needle. That's my third stitch. Okay. And I will come back to you as soon as I have completed one round. What are you doing?
Why is that a soft microphone?
Because I'm recording something right now, okay?
Didn't do it.
What is that? You're a weirdo. Go to bed. Go to bed. Love you. All right, I have knit back to the beginning of the round, and we are now going to divide our 66 stitches into our front piece, our back piece, our shoulders, and our raglan stitches. So for 66 stitches, it will be divided 19 stitches for the front, 19 stitches for the back, 10 stitches for each arm, and 8 stitches for raglan total. So I'm going to show you how to divide those up. I am at the beginning of my round, and dividing 19, because the beginning of my round is in the middle of the back, I'm going to knit 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay? I'm going to take my first stitch marker, I'm gonna put it on my right needle. I'm now going to knit 2 stitches. These 2 stitches are my raglan stitches. So I'm gonna take another stitch marker. And this just helps me, these stitch markers help me know where I need to make my increases in order to build out the body. So now that we have done half of the front, or half of the back of our sweater with those 9 stitches and then 2 raglan stitches, we are going to knit 10 stitches for the arm / shoulder. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now I take my stitch marker, knit 2, add my stitch marker. So now I'm going to knit 19 stitches for my front. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Double check. 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay. So now I will take one of my stitch markers and knit 2 more stitches. 1, 2, put on the stitch marker. I'm going to knit the left shoulder. So that'll be 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take a stitch marker, knit 2, 1, 2, ouch, and my last stitch marker. So now I should have 10 stitches left to knit since I only knit the first 9 of the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and now I am back at my beginning of round marker, and my raglan setup looks like this, hopefully. So if you're looking at it, here's the back and here's the front. We have all of our back stitches here, plus our 2 raglan. We have our shoulder, the front, and the other shoulder. So we are going to start making increases. Basically, we just did our cast on and knit 1 row, just normal knit stitches. And then as we knit our second round, we added in our stitch markers, and now we are going to begin our increases. The increases basically just take us from neck down the body before we split for sleeves. So this part is a little bit more preference than it is an exact science. It's what you anticipate or what you know about the child that you're knitting this for. So I took my daughter's exact measurements, but I did, for this pattern, get national averages for these ages, and I added in positive ease for every single size. So that being said, a lot of these numbers and measurements are just suggestions, and follow it, don't follow it, but most babies are not going to be the exact same size at each age, so do what you have to. Let's work our increases. I'm going to show you how we make one left, make one right. And something else that I'll say too is if you're an experienced knitter, make one left, make one right is probably going to be really easy for you. If you are a brand new knitter and my explanation and like video tutorial of it or the visual does not make sense, I'm gonna put a link in my video description to a video that I feel like does a really good job. But yeah, don't be intimidated by it. Just do whatever is easiest for you to remember. Without further ado, let me show you how I do my make one left, make one right. Every round from this point on will be worked in sets of 2. So the first round is going to be an increase round. The second round is going to be just a regular knit round where you knit all your stitches. I will slip my stitch marker from my left needle to my right. That indicates the beginning of the round. And I will knit these 9 stitches at the back of my work until this first marker here. So. Okay. So here I could slip my stitch marker, but instead, because I am increasing, I am looking for this first ladder here, okay? I wanna make sure that I have both strands of my yarn before I knit it, that way I don't leave a piece out. But anyways, so to make one right, since we are on the right side, if we have 2 markers here, this is our right marker, this is our left marker, we are going to increase before our right marker and after our left. And at our right marker, we are going to make one right. So I take my right needle and I come under this first ladder that runs in between both of my stitches here and here. And I am going, see if it'll focus, I'm going to drape it over my left needle. Okay, this is what it looks like from every angle. Okay, so now I'm going to take my right needle again, and I find that it can be a little bit hard because it's a tighter stitch. I'm going to take my needle and bring it in between. Oh my word, I wish I had like a solid background right now. Let's see if that shows up. Anyways, I'm going to knit. So you come up through this stitch into the back, yarn over, just like you would a regular knit stitch, and pull it through. And now you have made one right. So you made a stitch where there wasn't one, which now gives you an increase, and now you have 10 stitches here after the beginning of round marker instead of just 9. So now that I've made my stitch right, I'm going to slip my marker. I'm going to knit these 2 raglan stitches like normal, and I'm going to slip my left marker out of the set, and now I need to make one left of this marker. Okay, so I take my right needle, and instead of draping it over this left leg over, I take my left needle and I come and wrap it behind. Okay, so that's what it looks like all around. Okay, so now I take my right needle and I insert it. Ooh, oh my hell. I insert it. My goodness. Okay. I insert it into the back of that stitch and I knit it through the back leg. Okay, so now I've made one left. Now I'm going to knit all of these stitches here until this marker and do the same thing. So knit them all. And if you're feeling like your stitches are tight on your needles, like you don't have a lot of room to slide them around, as you do each increase round, you are gaining 8 stitches, which should hopefully make it easier to move your work around on your needles. I would just encourage you to kind of loosen up your tension as well so that you don't end up with really tight stitches. Okay. So now we are back at our right marker out of our set of 2, and I'm going to make one right, which means that I take my right needle under and I drape that left leg over, and I come through the bottom here and I knit my stitch up and off, slip my marker and knit these 2 stitches here, slip my left marker, and now I'm going to make a stitch to the left of my marker. And again, to make one left, I take my right needle underneath and I wrap it around from behind, just the left leg, not both legs. Hope that's clear. Take my right needle and insert from behind. And you know what, honestly too, if you have a hard time, like yes, this, I feel like the most normal way is to like enter it from behind like this. If it's hard for you to get that stitch, sometimes what I do is I take my right needle and I go through the front until it's off of my left needle. And then I just come through this right leg here from below, like top down. And now I've entered the back of that stitch no matter what. It's just sometimes, depending on how tight your needle pulls the yarn, it can be a little bit hard to get it off. But now you've made that stitch left. So I'm going to repeat this. I've increased 4. I'm going to do my next 4 increases until my beginning of round marker. And now I have just completed an entire increase round. And so instead of 66 stitches for my size 6T, I now have 74 stitches. Okay, so now that I've knit that first round, I'm going to work a regular stockinette round and then repeat. I will make an increase round for round 1, round 2 is a regular stockinette, and I'm going to make increases until my work reaches a length of 18 centimeters. Sure, why not? So now I'm going to work those increases until I reach the length designated on the pattern. If you have a child that you're making this for and they are in your house, it might be helpful for you to be able to put this on a piece of like scrap yarn once you think you're at a right length and try it on them. See where it hits them, see if they need more depth before splitting. I do not split right at the armpit, I split just below. That way they have some space to move their arms around, but I do have like some designated measurements based off of national averages. Again, none of it has been tested. So sorry if it ends up being too deep. The worst thing you'll have to do is just frog backwards. So work these increases and we'll reconnect as soon as I hit the point where I'm supposed to split for sleeves. Hopefully you guys can hear me just fine. I don't have my microphone on. So I wanna just make sure that I'm not knitting the yoke too deep because I'm knitting a size 6 and she's just gonna be turning 5. You never know, and I would rather not have to, yeah, her name's Murphy. I don't wanna knit it too deep. I have a really janky needle set up. Okay, I'm gonna put it over your head really gently. Don't help me, okay? Get on your knees. So right now, it's just barely hitting the tip of her armpit, so like right where it creases. And because this pattern's meant to have positive ease, I know that I want to knit it a little bit deeper. Let's see where we're at. So I've never knit this size, and because she's not, I feel comfortable adjusting the yoke depth to probably 14 or 15 centimeters. Just gonna gently lift it off you. So right now I'm probably around 11 or 12 centimeters. And I'm gonna stop it around 14 or 15, and we'll do another try on at that point and see if it, are you excited? Okay, all right. So I'm gonna knit for just a little bit longer.
Bye.
And
And
we'll
Mom's gonna
check
take
in.
a video.
Say bye.
Take a video of me. Bye.
I think I'm gonna do even just one more increase row, and then a regular stockinette row.
Mom's trying to do this for my birthday because she loves me.
It's true. Okay. Thank you. Can you say bye?
Bye.
I literally start every single video clip with, okay. I did finally reach a point where I'm ready to split for sleeves. So I wanted to show you how I usually go about that. I believe in the pattern that I wrote. I recommend for 6T to stop knitting the body once you reach a length of 18 centimeters measured from the neck down. I think I'm somewhere around 15 and a half, almost 16 centimeters. And I tried it on her. I feel like it fits perfect. And it's time for me to split for sleeves. So when you do that, you are hopefully at the beginning of your round. I always knit a couple stitches after the beginning of my round just so that my stitch marker doesn't slide off, but you are back at the beginning of your round. You are now going to knit until just after your stitch markers. So you're gonna include these 2 raglan stitches in the front panel and back panels of your work. Your sleeves are the stitches that happen in between the 2 sets of raglan stitches. So I'm gonna show you from my POV what that looks like, just past the beginning of round stitch marker. So now we will knit past these 2 raglan stitches. Okay, so I take this stitch marker, I'm gonna just take it off altogether. Knit 1 raglan stitch, knit 2 raglan stitches, slip the other marker off, and now we're going to begin placing our sleeves on hold. So I would recommend getting out a needle with some scrap yarn. Okay, so I have my needles and I have a piece of scrap yarn that I'm going to probably have to trim down because it's quite long. And now you are essentially going to pick up all of the stitches for your sleeve purlwise, like this. I take my needle, you ignore your knitting needle, and I enter all of my stitches purlwise. I just slip them off of my metal needle onto my plastic needle, which is carrying my scrap yarn. Okay, so now you can take off your stitch markers as well. Put these aside. I'm actually gonna not worry about that for just a sec, but I'm gonna thread just a little bit more of the scrap yarn through. I'm gonna get some scissors, cut it. Okay, and then I sometimes double up my scrap yarn just so that when I go to pick up my stitches later, it's easier. If you have it on like a piece of thread, your stitches I feel like tend to get a little bit too tight on the thread, and then picking them up later to knit your sleeves again is kind of a nightmare. But yeah, so now we have all of the stitches for 1 sleeve on hold. Now we will add 2 to 3, depending on your preference, but 2 to 3 stitches onto your right needle that you'll use to help pick up the armpit of your sleeve and your body later on. So I do this. Some people like to do the backwards loop like that. I like something a little bit more secure. I don't know if it has a name. Wrap it around my finger twice. I do it clockwise. So I pick up this bottom, like so, and then I come underneath the top stitch, slide my finger out, and I pull it tight. So here it is again. 2, I'm gonna do 3. And 3. So now that I have added those 3 stitches on, I'm going to knit. Here's the last marker. Here's my 2 raglan. I'm gonna knit the whole front panel and then do the same thing with my other sleeve. And the reason why I'm not giving stitch counts is because, one, I think that it's too much math for me. But then two, this really is meant to be a guide to kind of help you figure out intuitively where you need to stop and start based off of your own preference. And I find that I often, even as a new knitter, would not follow the stitch counts and such unless a baby was not here, or a baby was, yeah, not here for me to try it on. You can kind of, what I would recommend even is getting a onesie, like a baby onesie, and comparing a lot of your measurements and depth and stuff like that to the onesie. Obviously, if you have a friend that you're knitting this for, you can maybe even ask them to measure for you. I just would hate to give specific measurements and tell you to follow them if I didn't also know that children vary so much in size. So, I don't know. Hopefully you're watching this video in its entirety before you start, just so you can kind of, I didn't take my Adderall at all before filming any of this. I know it's not very linear and I'm really sorry for that, but you guys asked for a tutorial and I'm not a great teacher and I can only get better with time. So hopefully my next tutorial for anything is a lot more cohesive. I should probably write a script. That's how you know, I didn't do this, baby. Knit in the round until you hit where you're comfortable with the body of your sweater ending, and then I will show you how to account / add the rolled part. Here, that looks like we have short sleeves. I've come to a good stopping point on the body of my daughter's sweater, so I'm going to show you the last few steps before we bind off. Now, you are going to knit back to the beginning of your round, if you aren't already there, and you're going to do one purl row. This purl row is going to act like a natural stop. I was given this idea by a girl on Instagram. I can put her username. But basically it acts like a natural stop to the curling to the bottom of the sweater. Since we are just knitting in plain stockinette, we are not ending this with any sort of ribbing. So one round of purling, and then add length in just plain stockinette until you feel like you've hit a good point where it'll curl enough to cover the purl. Doesn't need to be anything extreme. I'll probably do like 5 or 6 rows of just plain stockinette in the round. Then we'll come back and we will bind off together and I will show you exactly how to do that. If you're not worried about the curling, skip the purl row, omit it completely, and just knit another 8 rows of stockinette, and that way it doesn't curl too much. But when you block it, it'll kind of relax and it won't curl as much. You may not even need to worry about it. I am back at the beginning of my round and I am now ready to bind off. I think I said that I was going to do 5 or 6 rounds of regular stockinette after I did my round of purl. Let's see. I believe I did 5 total rounds of stockinette. So if you've never bound off before, it's no big deal. You are probably going to want to do Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, I believe it is, or some variation of it. I'm going to show you how I do it. I think I'm going to hybrid the Jenny surprisingly stretchy bind off with a traditional bind off. I actually don't even know if it's called a traditional bind off. We'll find out, but you can either follow what I'm doing or I'm going to link 2 separate tutorials, one for Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off and then just a traditional or like a normal bind off, whatever it's called. Okay, first things first, you are going to knit all the way back to the beginning of round marker and you're actually just going to take it off. I would push all of your stitches again up to the top of your left needle, your working needle. So typically for Jenny's stretchy bind off, I believe you knit 2. I'm going to knit 1, okay, knit 2, so it's the same for both. But instead of knitting these 2 stitches together with Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, you are just going to pass this second stitch over your first by picking it up with your left needle, and you are going to pass it over the first stitch, okay, just like that. So it actually creates a little gap here because this is technically the stitch that you just bound off. So now you're going to knit another one, and here is where I hybrid the 2 bind off techniques. Instead of passing the second one over this first, I am going to enter both stitches here and knit it through the back loop. Oh my word. And knit it through the back loop. Okay, hopefully that was clear. I'll keep doing it, but so it's hard to explain, but where this is a little bit tighter here, this stitch technique does make it a little bit stretchier. So now we are going to knit a stitch over, and because we just did the Jenny, I'm going to call it the Jenny stitch here, we are going to pass this second stitch over the first Okay, knit one, and now I'm going to knit these two together through the back loop. Knit one, passing this one over the first. Knit one, knitting both stitches together through the back loop. Knit one, passing one over. Knit one, knit both stitches together through the back loop, and so on and so forth. It doesn't look the most clean, but it doesn't matter because it will roll. And if you know that you have had a past issue with binding off too tight and not being able to get the sweater over your body, then this is probably going to be one that will be useful to you. Now we've officially finished the body, we should be picking up for our sleeves now. Really, you just put all of these stitches that you put on hold back on your needles. I'm going to show you really fast because my camera's about to die. I'm going to show you how I set up my stitches on my needle and how many stitches I pick up for the armpit. Remember, we cast on 3. I pick up 5. When I pick up 5, it helps to kind of close the gap because if you were just to pick up those 3 stitches underneath and then the stitches around, it creates a little bit of a hole on both sides of the armpit. So I pick up 5, 1 in the center of the set of 3, and then the rest, or I'll show you. Once you pick up all the stitches that you had on hold on your piece of scrap yarn, you are going to take all of that scrap yarn out. All right, now we also have a little bit of gaping here, right, where we pick up our armpit. So we cast on these 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. But we also need to pick up a 4th and 5th stitch so that we don't end up with a hole, and we'll just decrease that 4th and 5th stitch during the first round. So I always kind of line up the edge of my stitches with where my body stitches are picked up, and I can kind of see that right here, this hole could be closed if I picked up in between this little spot right here. So you will pick up 1 stitch here, 1 stitch there, then you'll pick up 1 stitch for every body stitch that you added. And I personally like to pick up my stitches in between, not right here at the knob or the bump. So 1, 2. So I actually have 3 stitches on here right now. We're picking up 5 total. I'm going to put a stitch marker here in the middle so that I know where the very center of my round is. I'm going to pick up my 3rd body stitch right here. So 4. And then again, I can kind of see that right here is where I'm going to end up with a hole. So I will use this spot right here to pull up a stitch. Okay. So now you have got all of your body stitches, or you've got all of your armpit stitches cast on, and all of your arm stitches are back on your needles after resting. This first round is going to start with 2 decreases because we picked up those 2 extra stitches on either side of the armpit. So I will show you what that looks like really quick. There you have your beginning of round stitch marker here. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to see. Stitch marker here, and you are going to knit both of these 2 stitches together. You're going to have to pull on that first string just to make sure there's no gaping. You are going to knit until 2 stitches before your beginning of round marker. And how you do this first round of decreases is exactly how you are going to do your decreases on your 10th round. Here we have our stitch marker. What you're going to do is slip the stitch knitwise, slip the stitch knitwise, and then take your left needle and knit those 2 stitches through the back loop and off. Okay, so you've technically made your first round of decreases. That's really just to get rid of those 2 bonus stitches that we added on to close the gap between the armpit. But as you can see, we have no gapping. So now you are going to knit either 10, 20, whatever amount of rounds until you make your first set of true decreases, at which point you'll just make the exact same decrease pattern. Okay, I'm almost done with the sleeve. I want to check to make sure that it's going to fit. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Okay, so come stand right here. It hits just above her wrist, so I'm going to do one more round of decreases. I said I was going to do every 20. I ended up doing every 10, and I think that that's going to work out the best, but it still gives that slightly baggy fit in the arm, but not overly baggy, right? Do you like it? You so excited? So I'm gonna do one more round of decreases, then I'll do the same kind of purl stop, and then maybe another 4 or 5 rounds of just plain stockinette.
Mom, you should put some pearls.
And then I will bind off the same way that I bound off the body. So we're gonna finish this arm, pick up this arm, and then I'll come back for the collar.
And it's have it charged at night.
Yep, I didn't charge my camera, so we gotta go. If it looks like my background's just gone up in a bomb, that's because it did. I'm getting ready to go camping, so I'm just trying to get this finished up before I leave. But I finished the second sleeve of my sweater. Hopefully you did too. I'm gonna take my needle. And if you look really closely and you pull your fabric apart, you can see exactly where your stitches are. Okay? What I like to do when I pick up stitches is I like to locate the V here. You can kind of see how there's 2 ladders, one there and one right there. I pick up not at this first one because that has a potential to gape. Instead, I come down here underneath this second ladder. So I pick up the stitch, then I locate the V next to it, go underneath, pull through, find the one next to it, 3, 4. I'll skip this stitch and I'll pick up the one next to it. 2, 3, 4. So it kind of looks like this. If you want to pick up one stitch for every stitch, be my guest. I just like how picking it up in this way, where you omit every couple of stitches, just kind of pulls and structures the neck just a slightest bit more. You could do 5 stitches, skip a stitch, 10 stitches, skip a stitch. I don't care. Every once in a while, I'll mix it up. Just, I don't know. Go with your gut, mama. Okay, I have picked up all of my stitches in the round that I want. And because I'm on a longer cord, it's honestly a little bit too long for this. I'm just going to use the traveling loop. And I don't have a stitch marker. I'm just gonna hope I remember where the beginning of round is. But you're just gonna knit, like I said, 6 to 8 rounds. I just finished knitting the collar. So if that's where you're at too, go ahead and bind off. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I counted the stitches that I picked up around the neckline as part of my stitch count. So 7 rows total, 6 that I knit. And I would say it gave about 1.5 inches of length. So if that's kosher with you guys, I'm gonna just bind off. Same way that you bound off your body and your sleeves. Now I have my blocking mats here. I can link the ones that I use on Amazon. So I'm gonna pull the sweater out of the towel now that it's been pressed. And we are going, I'm actually gonna block her this way. Oops, sorry. Okay, and I use the blocking combs. I don't know if that's actually what they're called. Anyways, it goes by faster. You don't have to go pin by pin. This was something that I did not invest in until, I don't know, I've been knitting for a little over 2 years and I've finally started to pay more money for things like this, and it is worth it. Anyways, I don't know, I hope you can see it. My camera's like not great. Anyways, I wouldn't stretch this a ton. It most likely grew the most during the washing phase, and this yarn does grow quite a bit, so I would be a little bit cautious of that. You can even be really scientific and take out a measuring tape if you want. It does not feel that serious to me, so. I'm not going to show you how to weave in your ends. I'll link a tutorial. I do feel like it's not hard. I just don't feel like doing it on camera. I really just have been trying to put this out for like 4 weeks. So, thanks for being here. And if you watched this whole thing, you're my dog.